just be the party that is against Donald Trump. We have to be a party that doesn't have a 27% approval rating from our own base. That is not a survivable future.
What if somebody sued David Hogg? He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I might give the DNC $10 and sue him. He's a contemptible little twerp.
You know, look at the last results of the previous election. Those are the purported experts that brought us here. Just to say, it's not personal.
Well, if you think David Hogg has a point, you are an enemy to the Democratic establishment. And guess what? A war is afoot at the Democratic National Committee. Today, DNC Chair Ken Martin said its officers should not take sides in primary elections, implicating activist and DNC Vice Chair David Hogg, who just last week stated that he will be using $20 million to challenge ineffective incumbent Democrats in safe blue districts, which leaders of the party were not too happy about. And now they're actually trying to do something about it. Before we get to the details on what they're trying to do, Waz, just your thoughts on what's happening here, David Hogg's strategy and the reaction to it.
I think it's a good thing to introduce some level of put up or shut up from incumbents, right? Like if you're just up there on your little gravy train, not doing anything to lift a finger to make the case to the American people that the Democratic Party is actually a viable alternative to the clown car that is running Washington right now, then yeah, you should be primary. Like this idea that you just get to hold down your seat. Of course, unless you're Jamal Bowman, unless you're Cori Bush, unless you're, some of these other more progressive type styled Democrats who these people had no problem seeing them get primaried. Where was the hand wringing? Where was the crying? Where was, this freaking Clintonite, old as he is, where was he when Jamal Bowman was getting screwed out of his seat in the Bronx? Nobody cared. Nobody lifted a finger. So I think it's hilarious now that these people are pretending that this is just not done. Democrats don't primary incumbents until APAC says so.
So true. So let's get to what Ken Martin is now saying, and it's very clear this was spurred by David Hogg's strategy to primary these ineffective Democrats, again in safe blue districts. Martin says, let me be unequivocal. No DNC officer should ever attempt to influence the outcome of a primary election, whether on behalf of an incumbent or a challenger. Voters should decide who our primary nominees are, not DNC leadership. Our role is to serve as stewards of a fair, open, and trusted process, not to tilt the scales. So is he saying, yeah, we definitely tried to tilt the scales in 2016 and oust Bernie so the nominee would be Hillary Clinton. But those days are long gone. Okay, Martin went on to say that he had spoken to Hogg about the conflict, saying, quote, I understand what he's trying to do. As I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC, because our job is to be a neutral arbiter. We can't be both the referee and also the player at the same time. You have to make a decision. Now, Hogg argues that he's not violating any of the DNC bylaws. And in fact, in a thread on X, he says, they're trying to change the rules because I'm not currently breaking them. As we're seeing law firms, tech companies, and so many others bowing to Trump, we all must use whatever position of power we have to fight back. And that's exactly what I'm doing. This moment requires us to have the strongest opposition party possible to stop Trump from destroying people's retirement savings, disappearing people, plunging our economy into oblivion, and to provide a real alternative to the Republican Party for voters that we simply do not have right now. That will not change if we keep the status quo. We have no other option but to do the hard work of holding ourselves and our party accountable. And you know what? I love the fact that he's undeterred, despite the fact that it's very clear to me that the DNC is about getting ready to wage a war against David Hogg for having the audacity to hold ineffective loser Democrats accountable.
I'm just laughing because I think you have a pretty decent relationship with Marianne Williamson. What would she say to the idea that the DNC doesn't put his finger on the scale of things? Like that's just a preposterous claim on its face. Like it's insane. And by the way, even if that is the case, if that is the strategy, that means you guys had no ability to see how ineffective and just straight up unpopular you guys have become and have no mechanism to effectuate a change in that case. So even if that is your policy sucks. Like just plainly and obviously, you should be coming to different policy ends and goals than if, it's like, oh, this is in the bylaws, which it's not. You guys should be, the idea that you don't have a fire lit under your butt to get things done and pursue better outcomes for the Democratic Party is just insane. And the idea that these safe incumbents, if they're so good, Anna, then they should win.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, if you've been serving your constituents love you, you've been delivering on policy, fighting for them, you shouldn't be worried about a primary challenger. You want to know who's not worried about a primary challenger? Thomas Massie, the libertarian congressman. I mean, Donald Trump himself has tried to challenge Massie because Massie won't go along with, funding bills that Trump wants him to vote in favor of. Massie's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And even though I don't share a lot of opinions with Thomas Massie, with the exception of his unwillingness to vote in favor of funding Israel and its, persecution of the Palestinian people, I respect him because he's a man of principle, and I suspect that his constituents feel the same way, which is why he's safe. Even with the almighty Donald Trump trying to challenge him and oust him from his congressional seat, he's unable to do it. He's unable to do it because Thomas Massie delivers for his constituents and shows that he's a man who has values and principles. Now, let's talk a little bit about what others at the DNC are saying. They seem to be on Ken Martin's side. Jane Kleeb, a DNC vice chair, noted that enshrining DNC neutrality was something that progressive Senator Bernie Sanders wanted. And many other Democrats across the ideological spectrum have repeatedly asked us to codify into our bylaws. It's just that we weren't willing to do it until this very convenient moment. They think we're stupid. Like
that is rich. Yeah. To be like, this goes against what Bernie would want. Because we love what Bernie wants. All we ever do is wanna, espouse the values and the virtues of all the things that Bernie supports. So this is just included in that. We're always on the side of Bernie.
Right.
Not just when, basically the establishment incumbent stooges are in danger now. This is laughable.
Now, look, I don't know if there are any, DNC figures watching this show right now, but in the off chance that is happening, that they're watching, I want them to watch this video and I want them to soak it in because what they're about to see is the manifestation of their failures. Drink it up. Let's watch.
This, I think, is a revolt that is going on within the Democratic Party right now, Democrats and their leaders. I mean, take a look nationally. Hello, Democrats on Dem leaders in Congress. The belief that they will do the right thing when it comes to the economy. Last year at this time, 80% believed that the Democratic leaders in Congress would do the right thing when it comes to the economy. And keep in mind, this is Democrats. Look at where we are now. That number has been slashed in half to just 39%. Holy Toledo, that is the lowest number by far in Gallup polling. The lowest previous was just 60%, which is 21 points higher than this. Democrats hate what their congressional leaders in Washington are doing right now on the key issue of the day, the economy, and their confidence has fallen through the floor.
Ever since the Democratic Party went the third way, right? Third way, neoliberalism, moderates, like when they went in that direction, economic moderates or neoliberals, what ended up happening is what you just saw on that screen, with the Democratic Party losing support and favorability among their own base. That poll did not take into account Republican voters. Those were Democratic voters sharing their thoughts on the modern Democratic Party. So what does the vice president for policy at Third Way have to say about David Hogg's efforts? David Hogg has to decide whether he wants to be in the tent of losers or outside the tent. If he wants to be inside the tent, there are responsibilities and limitations. What are the responsibilities? Hatcheting up new policy proposals that will ensure that Democrats will continue losing elections? Is that the responsibility? I mean, this guy is pathetic. But look, Third Way represents the donor class. Third Way represents the brain rot and the corruption that has destroyed the Democratic Party. And time after time, what I've noticed from Democratic leadership is that they will opt for the money over the best interests of their own constituents, their own voters, and their own base. And as long as they keep doing that, the party will keep devolving, they'll keep losing. I mean, the fact that they lost to Donald Trump. They lost to Donald Trump.
Twice.
Twice. And they have the audacity, like you don't have the moral high ground here. Okay, the folks that turned the Democratic Party into what it is today, they have no leg to stand on, but yet they're still doing the bullying. They're still pushing out anyone who dares to challenge their strategies, their policies, and the identity that they've taken on as a party. And so they'll keep losing. And you want the thing that sucks is they deserve to lose. They do. We just don't deserve to be led by someone like Trump. Okay, it's unfair to us, but they don't seem willing to really change course here. And Cenk was right. You know, right before the election, I was like, look, if Trump wins, a potential silver lining is that Democrats might learn a lesson, a helpful lesson. And he told me they're not going to learn anything. And you want to know something? He was right, at least for now.
I just want listeners to have this seared into their brain. Anytime you hear the words third way in your brain in relation to the Democratic Party, you should just have a sick knot in your stomach. These people are literally, by definition, every single thing that is wrong with the Democratic Party. The idea that the Clintonites, basically pioneered is that it used to be the case that the Republicans were raking in all of that sweet, sweet, sweet corporate cash. They had it all to themselves, and the third way Democrats were like, no, we should be tapping into that. We'll tap into that sweet corporate cash. We will tie ourselves to these folks. Who cares about our working class sort of labor movement, union worker type of constituents? They're icky anyway. They're backwards people anyway. They didn't go to our schools. They don't drink martinis the way that we do. These people have the cooties. We want to start pursuing those beautiful, nice voters in the suburbs and courting the sweet, sweet cash from the corporate class. And it's been on and on. I'm talking about unabated from Obama on to freaking Kamala Harris, who literally, I'll never get tired of saying this. The day that Joe Biden's DOJ was taking Google to court, Kamala Harris was at a fundraiser with execs from Google, okay? All up from Clinton, 1992, all up until today, man, this is 30 years of this crap. And these people sit here and think they can lecture folks as if their freaking model, freaking free trade and all the crap they've done. And that they can sit here and wag their fingers at people who are like, yo, maybe we should do a different way than what you idiots have done for 30 years. Plus, it's rich, man.
It really is.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.